We're also counting down to Christmas. That's 4 days from now. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the program. I am Nifemi Ogutoye. We're headed to southern Kaduna this morning, where sadly we're hearing reports of renewed attacks and the killings of no fewer than 28 persons in Malangum and Sokwom communities. That's in Kaura local government area of the state. And I'm joined this morning by someone who should know and help us understand updates as regards what's happening there and efforts by different stakeholders to nip this in the bud. It's the Kaduna State Chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend John Joseph Hayab. Reverend Hayab, good morning to you, and thank you for joining us this morning. Well, while we're waiting for Reverend Hayab to connect with us live, I'll just quickly update you with the reports coming in from that part of the country. We're told that bandits have attacked communities on Sunday night and also razed several houses. The affected communities include Malangum 1 and Songwon of Kagoro. That's in Kaura local government area. And a few confirmations are coming in of the killings. The council chairman, Martha Seaman, did say 7 persons were gruesomely killed in Sogom community and their houses completely burnt. Also, Speaker of Kaura local government, Atok Stephen, added that over 22 persons were killed in Malagum 1 community. We're taking reactions this morning from different stakeholders, and one of them is the Christian Association of Nigeria. And also, perhaps by the time we open the phone lines, we'll also get feelers from others as well from that part of the country. It's been a very sad tale coming from this region. You recall that earlier this year, there's been quite a number of peace summits, a lot of white paper committees that have been inaugurated to look into this challenge and come up with solution. As a matter of fact, sometime in 2020, the federal government, the presidency rather, came up with its position as to what is happening in that part of Kaduna. Let's get back to the Reverend this morning. Reverend Hayab, good morning. Can you hear me now? Good morning, Reverend Hayab. Reverend Hayab, if you can hear me, I'd like us to begin with your description of the nature of this latest attack. What have you learnt about what happened, and how are stakeholders reacting to it? Well, we seem to have a challenge connecting with him at the moment. However, we have some updates from what has happened and some past efforts that have been recorded by government. For instance, on the 3rd of September in 2020, or rather this year, we had Christian and Muslim leaders sign up for the Interfaith Peace Initiative inaugurated by the state governor. We'll be hearing from him in the course of this conversation, how much help that has brought. Reverend Hayab, if you can hear me now, I'm asking that you tell us what you have learned about the latest attack in southern Kaduna.
I'm not hearing.
I can hear you. Please go ahead. Reverend Hayab, can you hear me? Well, we seem to have some challenges with that connection. The killings in southern Kaduna is not just something that is happening now. It's been around for a while, and it's been labeled with different names and given several reasons. There's been quite a number of interventions also from government. The question, however, is how much of peace has been restored to that part of the country, and precisely what is being done right now. Do we even understand the cause of all of these challenges? And it's also important that we hear from people who are there. and who are experiencing the challenge firsthand. You recall that earlier on, the presidency had insisted that the violent attacks is an expression of deeper problems than what is being postulated or what is being reported on the media. As a matter of fact, it had mentioned that there is need for all of the different stakeholders to come together and resolve this matter as a matter of urgency. A look at what has happened recently. For instance, you hear the police, mention target an endless reprisal. According to Umar Muri, for instance, the commissioner of police, sometime in 2020, was quoted to have said, when one man is killed, his people assume it is neighbor, and instead of reporting, they take the laws into their hands. Ada's called in from Jos this morning. Good morning, Ada.
Good morning. Ada calling from Jos State. When you rolled out the figures, I found it ridiculous. That's too low. It's too low if you have been following what the killings happening there. So my submission is this: there can't be peace without justice. You can't keep on having committees, having white papers, and they are nobody is following those recommendations to the letter. That is what is happening. There's a root cause. Why can't they address the root cause once and for all? It's really sad. It's not only in Kaduna, it's all over. What is happening? There can't be peace without justice, no matter how we pretend. You can't come there, there's no sincerity of purpose. After the committees, when they get back, they do something differently. So we can't continue like this. We don't have value for human life again. It's really unfortunate. God is saying, let's not do about this country. We shall be well.
Thank you very much, Ada, for your contribution. Let's get back to the Kaduna State Chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend John Joseph Hayab. Reverend Hayab, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning. Sorry, I think the system wasn't picking my voice.
Well, glad we can hear you now. Talk to us about what you have learned as regards the nature of this latest attack. And what's the update this morning?
Well, over 37 people were killed 2 days ago. The people in that community are living in fear. There is tension all over southern Kaduna, and the usual rhetoric, we are back to it again. Once there is killing, we talk, but no concrete action. When we have one small success, we jubilate as if it is all over, not knowing that the criminals have not yet given up. This is the kind of thing I can say I'm learning, and it's sad. This is not what we want to see, and it is coming towards the season of Christmas to create more fear and confusion in the entire place.
But I think you were quoted to have said that this is proof that those who are causing mayhem in that part have not been dealt with. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, we've heard severally that government or the security forces have neutralized bandits, have neutralized criminals around. But if these people can come and cause this havoc, killing 1, 2, 3, 30, 37 and above people, burning houses in such number, then they've not been neutralized. They probably withdrew somewhere, and we started celebrating, thinking it's over, not knowing that they went to regroup.
Police over the years have attributed attacks of this nature as reprisal attack. They have called it reprisal attack. Do you think that is what happened on Sunday night?
Can those who are calling it reprisal attack should tell us what happened in the last 1 month, in the last 6 months, in the last 3 months that warrant reprisal? Don't we have government? Don't we have laws? If anybody has committed a crime, are you the one to go after the person who committed the crime and kill him? What have those innocent children, innocent women who were sleeping and they were slaughtered in their sleep got to do with your reprisal? If you have an issue with me, Reverend Hayab, or you have an issue with somebody else, will you go to the community and destroy even people who do not know about the issue and call it reprisal? Sometimes the use of this term reprisal is just a way of covering, and we must be careful when we use even the word reprisal. What has happened that we are reprising? What happened? Can someone tell us what has happened that we are coming back for reprisal? reprisal? Who has killed who in the last 3 months that you are coming back for reprisal? Who has offended who that you are coming back for reprisal?
All right.
Criminals, terrorists are terrorizing citizens, and we should deal with them with their name than using this reprisal as a cover.
Let me hold you for a minute. Chidi has called in from Kafancha, and both of us would like to hear from him. Hi, Chidi. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Defemi.
Good morning.
Indeed, the recent communal clashes in Malagum, which is not too far away from Kafanchan, is quite regrettable, particularly the timing. A lot of factors may be attributed to this incessant communal crisis, but I do not want to lay blame on anybody's doorstep. I only want to encourage the government and the other stakeholders to work harmoniously and synergically in order to bring these people together, the farmers on one hand, the herders on the other hand. If there will be real understanding and the need to foster peace, justice, unity, and peaceful coexistence, I want to strongly believe that this incessant crisis will be mitigated. Let Nigerians understand and place more value and premium on our lives, because life should be sacrosanct and should not be wasted in the manner in which we saw what happened in Malagun. I condole with the local government, I condole with the state, and I condole with the immediate families of those that lost their lives. And I want to pray to the Almighty God that may this thing not happen again in any part of Nigeria, because indeed every part of Nigeria is in one somewhere or the other. May the good Lord grant us peace, particularly this Yule time. Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Chidi, for that contribution. Don't forget that you can be a part of this conversation by using the hashtag ThisMorningTVC on all social media platforms. We'll be joining a live coverage of the ceremony to mark the completion of the Blue Line, the light rail project of the Lagos State government at the National Theatre and moment from now. But this conversation continues on other platforms. Reverend, you mentioned that we shouldn't cover this up under the phrase reprisal attack. Are you agreeing to the fact that perhaps Southern Kaduna have experienced some relative peace in the past months, particularly after the major attack in June this year?
Yeah, that's why I have even counted months and periods to say who has attacked who, what has happened that warrant this attack. In fact, let me comment, let me say something with what Chidi said. Chidi called it a communal violence. I'm really surprised. How can innocent people be sleeping in their sleep and someone come and attack them and kill them and you call that communal violence? Who was fighting who? I think so many people who want to comment about Southern Kaduna problem end up even complicating the issues and give the issue a way that you can't even find solution. If it were actually a hardest farmers crisis, was it in the farm? The people, then it will have happened, it will be a fight between the farmers and the herders, probably in the farm. But these people are sleeping in their homes and some criminals or terrorists come and kill them, and you are calling it farmers herders, gun them down and march at them, and you are calling it communal violence? This is sad. Well, this is the way we receive this every time. Everybody wants to comment about our crisis, but they end up commenting as if they are even not really concerned about the reality of this. We are not blaming anybody. We are simply saying that we have a government in place, and the responsibility of government is to protect lives and properties. On all the routes leading to different communities and different towns in Southern Kaduna, you find military men, policemen, checking. Then you ask yourself, these people who came and slaughtered the people, how did they drop to that community? How did they also escape out of that community? And nobody saw them. So these police and soldiers that are everywhere are just out to stop commuters or stop people with vehicles and salute those who are having tinted glass vehicles and get some gratification. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, Reverend Hayab, there are some who would say that this issue is more complicated than many people are willing to admit. And I'd like to take you back to 2020. For instance, there are some who would say these attacks are not one-sided. And there might be facts to back this up. On September 3rd of September that year, Christian and Muslim leaders signed up for an interfaith peace initiative inaugurated by the incumbent governor. And a few Christian clerics had this to say. The Bishop of Kaduna Diocese of Anglican Church was quoted to have said that, I'm quoting him now, "We tend to take sides. It's like this war has been focused on one group. We must correct this narrative." Another cleric, Matthew Undagoso, Archbishop of Kaduna Catholic Diocese, also said, on just the other side, nothing will change. Do you agree with these statements?
Well, you didn't say who is the name of the Bishop of the Anglican, because there are people who claim to be speaking for the church in Kaduna, and sadly they don't.
The name on this record, Reverend, is Timothy Yahya.
Okay. And I don't think that there was a sign of an agreement in Kaduna. Kaduna is not southern Kaduna. If you are trying to handle a crisis, have you really engaged the people who are victims, the people who are in the place where the crisis is going on? Or you come to a city and meet some people who don't really have a say or have a presence in that place and decide. I'm the county chairman of Kaduna State. Okay, by virtue of my office, I could be dealing with all the churches across the state, but the bishops you've just signed, I'm thinking you may be using a conversation that is different, are all operating in Kaduna, not in southern Kaduna, because Bishop Timothy Yahya is the bishop of the Anglican Diocese of Kaduna, but it does not cover that area, because we have even 3 other Anglican bishops in that area. I wanted to hear you quoting them.
Are you saying that you did not participate in that particular?
I did not even know about it. I'm just hearing it from you.
All right, just hold on a minute.
You see, that's part of the problem, that we are trying to just refusing to discuss about it. When those in authority deliberately sideline stakeholders in Southern Kaduna, I know very well that when all these killings were going on, what we hear from many of the media is your leaders accusing Sukapo elders, accusing Christian leaders, accusing people. So they may have just gone to pick some friends that they think they want to talk with. That's why those who really speak for the people, those who the people know as their leaders, don't even know what they're talking about.
All right, Reverend, Tony has called in from Jos. Let's hear him out. Good morning, Tony.
Hello, good morning, my brother. How are you doing? Good morning to the Reverend.
Thank you.
Hello.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Tony. Please go ahead.
You see, Kaduna crisis has become perennial. It has been for a very long time. And I want to encourage the Reverend and the stakeholder to get these things nipped on the board, because killing of innocent people does nobody any good. You see, there is no way those that came to kill those innocent ones could go to the battlefield and fight with those ones they are fighting with. It is not possible. So this issue of trying to drag military and the police and the rest of them there are people's sons, husbands, and their daughters or whatever. Those security men, they are no spirit. So the stakeholders must solve this issue. For it's been a long time this issue has been on. So apportioning blame to this or to this person or to this other person, it will not solve their problem. Otherwise, it will continue. So I want to encourage the Reverend with you there to get the stakeholders, plead with them, let's live together. Because nobody will live forever here. All of us will want the exit. This innocent killing of people is uncalled for in Kaduna. It's been for too long. I remember during the Ramani Lekwot era and the rest of them. So it's not something I started today. Giving blame to everybody is not the issue. The military are own, they have blood in them. So you don't put everything on their doorstep. That they have checkpoints here and there does not mean that they are living within the people. The people should give them information when they see such things. But when you kill today, the other one will come back tomorrow and kill, and you are blaming the military. What does that mean? Please, stakeholders should come, rise, and stop this unnecessary waste of blood.
Thank you, Tony,
Thank you
for your contribution. Reverend Hayab, if you were not at that meeting in 2020 at the government house where the Peace Commission met with the stakeholders, what kind of engagement have you had with the Kaduna state government? And when last did that happen?
You know my role, I have been doing a lot of work in southern Kaduna speaking to both Muslims and Christians community, talking to their various leaders, appealing to them for peace, appealing to them for dialogue. I work for an organization where we preach that human beings are members of one family under God. We use that slogan to encourage them to understand, to encourage them to discuss with one another. And to some extent, we've been yielding fruit. But you see, there is a limit to our role in talking to people and to the role of enforcement. Talking to people to come and dialogue, and you end up having the criminals who are causing the mayhem, who are killing, you don't even find them to come and dialogue with them. So every group that is discussing dialogue must understand that there is a limit to what you can do. You do with people who are available, not people who are faceless. That's why the killers are faceless. And faceless killers can be better dealt by government and security agency. So the last speaker was thinking as if it is just no one is doing it. If I tell you the effort stakeholders have been putting to make sure that this violence stops, if I tell you the sacrifice stakeholders have been putting to make sure that this violence ends, you will sympathize with the stakeholders. What the stakeholders have always been asking is, can we really come to this dialogue table sincerely? Can we really come to this dialogue table as equal partners? Can we really come to this dialogue table with an open mind to listen to each other? Not just using the word dialogue, when in reality it is not dialogue. Not just bringing some people who do not even know about it to discuss. Well, the real victims have never been discussed with. I was there in Malagon when we buried the previous 38 people. And this time around again, we are going to bury another one tomorrow. So these things have continuously happening. But the kind of engagement we see has never been constructive enough and open and sincere enough that will bring people into conversation. If you will make reference to the previous incidents or the previous experience of Zamani Lekot, oh my God, this is one of the saddest stories we don't even want to remember, because when there is a crisis between two people, instead of coming to help the two people to understand, the authority that's supposed to help took side and almost even destroy another. So you only delay the crisis for another day because you've really not solved the problem.
All right. So I'm going to bounce some ideas with you. There's what the presidency says the problem is. There's the position of the state government. And I want to see if these positions align with your school of thought and particularly what you see happen on the ground. But let's hear Pius out. He's called in from Sapele in Delta State. Good morning, Pius.
Good morning, my brother.
Good morning.
I want to contribute. Tony, ask Tony why Tony cannot use the same stakeholder solution to solve just problems.
Say that again. I didn't quite get you.
Why Tony cannot use stakeholder solution to solve just problems? The killing is just.
All right, we're not necessarily talking about just this morning. Our attention is on Southern Kaduna.
You said killing the shots. You said killing the Plateau State. Also, in that question, he's advised the reference. Can he advise the same shots Plateau State? All the states that they used to kill.
That's all right. Thank you for your contribution, and I'm sure that that is quite noted. In 2020, I'm going back to that again because quite a lot happened that year. The presidency, Reverend Hayab, was quoted to have described what is responsible for the Southern Kaduna crisis. And it says it's an evil combination of politically motivated banditry, revenge killings, and mutual violence by criminal gangs acting on ethnic and religious grounds. Do these, in your opinion, reflect the reasons for this crisis?
Well, let me commend the federal government for coining their definition in such a way that you cannot separate A from B and C. So they are interconnected somehow. They've talked about criminals, they've talked about politics, they've talked about religion, they've talked about virtually everything. And that's true, but you see, sometimes even in coining the answers, we coin it with also bias and sentiment attached to it. Because having been around for quite a long time and having been engaging local communities in dialogue, I'll give an example with the Kanenkong chiefdom when there was a Christmas Eve attack. What was the reprisal there? There was really no reprisal. It's just some criminals who were hiding under whatever guise that came and attacked the community. And when you have such attack, what is expected is that is when you expect government to act, because government have the power for enforcement. We only engage the people or provide a platform for the people to talk. So the criminal-minded person, even if he comes to the dialogue, will look innocent and he won't say anything, but he will go behind. That's why we have intelligence gathering. Who is doing what is going on? Some people could look innocent, but they are really behind the crime. So intelligence gathering helps you to know them. Even if they sit in the dialogue table, they only sit to gather information, but they still go out to perpetuate their evil. So there are so many things really happening, quite all right, as the government try to portray. But the real truth is that the political will to enforce and stop evil is what is lacking, not the dialogue, not the people talking to each other.
Well, we'll work on that line. Just a minute, Reverend Hayab. We need to fix the quality of your line. But let's hear Abdullahi, who's called in from Kafancha. Good morning, Abdullahi.
Good morning, Nifemi, and good morning to the Reverend too.
Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Can I go ahead?
Please do. Go ahead.
Okay, actually, the little contribution that I want to make here is that just like you have rightly mentioned, the issue of insecurity in southern Kaduna State is very peculiar, and then very, very sad that it is yet to nip the bud on the head. But then the issue here is that number one factor is religious intolerance. I want to tell you here categorically that the Christians, sorry to mention, are vehemently and repeatedly disagreeing with anybody who is not part of them. Sorry to mention this. I want to believe that the Reverend here is listening, and you will not that it is the fact, because I am a bona fide indigene, born, brought up, and then lived almost 50 years, going nowhere, living in southern Kaduna State. Right from the genetics of this crisis up to date, I can tell you a whole lot about it. So, number one is religious intolerance. And I happen to be a member of one of the various committees that has been set up, at least just to clear this crisis, at least to bring it to the barest minimum. But then unanimously, there was a time that we sat down and then we agreed upon, based on each tribe as well as Christian and Muslim, that is talking about tribe and religion, that the issue of crisis that has to do with farmers and herders, whenever it arises, people should not take the law into their hands. If herder goes to somebody's farm and then do some damages, that farmer or even farmers should please report to the nearest authority. At least the crisis will become at least to the barest minimum, to the sense that it can be controllable within the shortest possible time. But then, very sad to say that in every society, in every community, in every religion, there are black sheep. This is what brought to the issue of at least the Christians taking at least the security, or let me say, the law into their hands. Whenever things happen, no matter how little it is, they will just make some jungle justice over it. And then repeatedly, the security will tell other people to be patient enough. And then their time goes on, whereby this crisis, this insecurity escalated.
All right, Abdullahi,
yes,
I think you made your point. That's how much time we have to go on a short break now. Reverend Hayab, when we return, I'll take your reaction to that position, particularly why people do not trust in enforcement agencies to report crime and rather take laws into their hand. I also like us to explore the topic of indigene-settler dichotomy and the fact that the Kaduna state government is insisting on citizenship and not indigenship, how you think that issue can also be resolved. The phone lines are still open. Remember to use the hashtag TVC, This Morning TVC on Twitter if you'd like to use the social media. Any moment from now, we'll join the ceremony to mark the completion of the Blue Line, the light rail project of the Lagos State Government at the National Theatre. Our show continues on every other platform. Please stay tuned.
In the month of December, on the 1st, it is World AIDS Day. On the 3rd, attention shifts to persons living with disabilities. And December 9th is dedicated to International Anti-Corruption Day. 10th is Human Rights Day, while the 11th is the 2nd anniversary of the abduction of over 300 students in Kankara, Katsina State. On the 12th of December, the World Health Organization dedicates the day as Universal Health Coverage Day. On the 17th of December, the abducted Kankara boys were freed 6 days after. 18th of December is set aside as International Migrants Day. It is the last month of the year. Brace yourself for an interesting December. Stay with TVC News.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
The Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism confers on Stella Dane Jacob, Director of News at TVC News, a Lifetime Award for Journalistic Excellence for a lifelong contribution to journalism and good governance in Nigeria.
I'm dedicating this award to my 8-month-old daughter, Matea Josephine, and the next generation of broadcasters, so that they will take off from where I have left and to understand that you're only as good as your last performance.
The 17th edition of the Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting was held on Friday, the 9th of December, 2022. Stella Dane Jacob is a seasoned journalist, news manager, and lawyer with a career spanning nearly 3 decades. Like a mantra, failure is not an option. Impossible does not exist. She remains focused and undeterred in nurturing talent and preserving globally accepted standards across newsrooms. Her contribution to broadcasting has produced winners and the Station of the Year awards for some news channels where she worked, including TVC.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching This Morning. Our attention this morning is turned to the crisis in southern Kaduna, and I'm joined by the Kaduna State Chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend Joseph Hayab. Thank you so much for staying the course on the program. The phone line is buzzing, but I'd like us to hear from our guest briefly before returning to it. Reverend Hayab, you heard Abdullahi from from Kafanta, and what he said is similar to the position of the police, that usually when a killing happens, the people assume it's the neighbor, and instead of reporting, they take laws into their hands. What do you think is responsible for what appears to be, a lack of trust between the people and law enforcement agency?
I'm not sure that the people don't trust law enforcement agency. I'm only realizing that because those of us who want to comment about the issue don't comment about the issue honestly and trying to play some kind of bias or sentiment into it. I, Joseph Hayab, I hail also from Southern Kaduna, and Abdullahi knows that very well, in Kafanchan to be precise. I can call names of very notable people in Jama'ah Emirate that we have put ourselves as committee. We have worked many years with them trying to find solutions to these matters. We've been to villages, we've been to different chiefdoms, we've been talking. But you see, the reality of this thing is, once there is some problems in Kaduna, the community or key actors come home and give a picture as if the problem is their tribal or religious problem. So certain governors or governments who come in place did not open door for sincere and honest conversation. Because if you remember, in 1999, we came out of a military regime in 2000, and then we had Sharia crisis. Immediately after Sharia crisis, we have the Miss World Beauty Project. But God gave us a governor at that time who was very open, and so he began to engage the people in dialogue, understanding what exactly are the issues. And before you know what's happening, Makati was able to sustain that peace, and we had a 9 years consistent lack of violence until 2011, the post-election violence that happened in many parts of the north, and Southern Kaduna came up again to it. Then this new wave of criminality came up because the leaders who came up after that time were not honest and willing to have a constructive engagement. Someone earlier said something about stakeholders. The truth is that there's nobody coming out of that place that will want to see crisis. We want to hear people being killed. Look, we go home every Christmas and every holiday for break. So why should there be crisis in the place that's supposed to go for break? I should do everything humanly possible to ensure that the place is violence-free, the place is peaceful. We have invited so many groups to come in there and wade into this matter and engage the people. But as the people are making effort to understand one another, then from the top, certain dramas will come and further divide them. Because anything that needs to be addressed from a just and equitable manner, if they are addressed with sentiment and religious or tribal biases, just trigger another suspicion. So when people are also posted to serve in the formations that are security formations around, and they come to play what looks like a tribal or a religious agenda, they further just make the people not trust to trust them and to come and share with them information.
Just a minute, Reverend. You mentioned just now that there was a period of 9 years where there were no crises. Can you be more specific as to what happened during that time that stopped happening in 2011?
Platforms for honest engagement, for honest dialogue were created. And you see, because those platforms were created, the people in authority also showed deliberate commitment to make this platform work. Because you could create platform for engagement, but your body language shows that you don't even care about the engagement. You are not honest about the engagement. So the engagements will not be fair. But when you create a platform for engagement, for people to dialogue, and you honestly also show commitment, because that was the structure that Governor McCarthy brought in place. It's not about his party, it's about him as a person. And when Namadi Sambo came to be in authority, he built on that. Today, there is something in Kaduna called Operation Yaki. It was actually established by Namadi Sambo because when he came, he now realized that, okay, since we have begun to engage the people in dialogue, we still have criminal elements who may not come to the dialogue table. So they need the force of the law to show them that they cannot take us back to Egypt. And so Operation Yaki was established. I remember the former vice president, who later became president, Goodluck Jonathan, came to commission Operation Yaki, and then something else started happening.
Okay, hold on, Reverend.
Conversation, understanding each other. But when those in authority don't give that kind of room,
yes,
even if you go to dialogue, you are still dialoguing without concrete support.
Please hold that thought. Let's quickly take this call from Enugu. Good morning, Chooks.
Hello, good afternoon, please.
Yeah, well, it's still 20 minutes before noon. Good morning. Welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you so much. I think the point, hello.
I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I think the point the man is making is very clear as a daylight. What you describe in every community life, Who are the combatants? Are women and children combatants? Hello?
Go ahead. Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
I said, what you describe as communal clash means that there are combatants. So what the Reverend is saying is as clear as daylight. They can be are women and children combatants in the conflict? So I think I don't have much to comment on, except let us not be moving around the problem. There is an aggressor and there's a victim. That is my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chooks, for your contribution. Reverend Hayab, quickly, I'd like us to talk about this seeming age-long indigene-settler divide that we are told often trigger violence in this part of the country. The state government is insisting on common citizenship. Do you subscribe to that?
Well, you see, these are the realities that we must face as Northerners and as Nigerian citizens. Southern Kaduna and Kaduna State is not an isolated area from the Nigerian Constitution. If we talked about indigent settlers dichotomy, what exactly is the provision of the Nigerian laws about that? And number two, what is the practice? Can I, as a Southern Kaduna man, move to Sokoto, move to Katsina, move to Kano, move to another place, or to Jigawa, and claim to belong to that place? I know I will be reminded that I belong here. I've always used this story to explain. So sometimes when people are telling us that we are one of the most consistent and tolerating community I have ever seen are the Southern Kaduna people. The fact about it is that it's the tolerance of Southern Kaduna people, the accommodation of the Southern Kaduna people that some people are abusing today and are now doing certain things that are not. Because many people who call on phone and tell us that they are indigenous of that place, they've been there for 50 years, when I proof for that, I will just tell you, they are actually Katsina people, they are actually Kano people, they are actually Sokoto people, but because of the accommodation of the Southern Kaduna people, we never cared. As I speak to you, I can refer with names and figures that I have always stood and even sponsored tafsir of Muslims, though I'm a pastor. I have sent Muslims to Hajj, though I'm a pastor. So what else do you expect? But show me in the same Kaduna state where I am doing this. I can see someone who comes from Borno or comes from Yobe and get a job in Kaduna, and my child will go to the local government to seek for later an indigent form, and that person will be issuing him a settler form. That is the same person that is telling me that there's a problem of settler-indigent dichotomy. So we are talking about real facts here, not just using terms. What is the provision of the law? Can I, with all sense of honesty, be in Sokoto and be accepted in Sokoto as an indigent? But in Southern Kaduna, we do, and we've never contested it. So can people just be honest and appreciate that our magnanimity, that if there's a crisis, they now want to paint a picture as if we do not. No, it's not fair. And that's part of the reason why we begin not to trust certain voices, because when you people know the truth and cannot come out and say, look, yes, these people have accommodated us. Yes, these people have accepted us. Yes, these people do not show differences among us. But criminals who want to see us fighting do come around to attack them. And naturally, those criminals come and use either religious identity or certain identity that shows they come from states. And it is just natural for us to also call those who share the identity of the criminal and say, wait a minute, these criminals coming to kill our wives, coming to kill our children, seems to be sharing identity. Do you know them? Can you talk to them? That's the offense. Oh, we don't need to talk to them. Then we now come to security and say, security, we are sleeping in our rooms and people use religious expression and come and kill us. Can you go after them? No, we don't have the right to complain. I think this is where the problems are. So settlers indigent dichotomy is not something restricted to Southern Kaduna. Can a Southern Kaduna man go to Katsina and be accepted? Can a Southern Kaduna man go to Sokoto and be accepted? Even if he stays there. Let me say this. I've ever said it in a public function. I'm going to use this forum to say that even in appointment, a typical northern state will not appoint a Southern Kaduna Christian into office. Why? Because he's still a northerner. But it will be given to someone far from the south. When you complain, they will now remind you, but are the other ones not Christians? But in the same south we go, we know our limit, we know where we are. Nobody will tell me that I don't know where I hail from, and I cannot lay claim to where I hail from. I'm not sure there's any place in our constitution that says so.
I hear you, Reverend Ayab, but the point I was making and the question I was really asking is the narrative of people who would say that I have lived here for 300 years. I should not be, referred to as a settler. I also should share the right of indigenship. Just like it is internationally, when you live for a number of years and you have worked, you're expected to naturalize. Is there an acceptance of that fact? Or of that truth?
I can tell you, practically, there's an acceptance of that. There is even, we grew up with people who had no attachment with Kaduna State, but because they have come to our land, they have stayed with us, we receive them. Some of us even train their children in school. Some of them even keep their children in our homes. So we don't have a problem with that. What we simply have is the Fulani man that we were relating with and relating as a neighbor, relating with and relating as a friend, suddenly becomes somebody that we see with a knife or we see with a gun or with an AK-47, and now in our sleep he will come, burn our house and kill us. So we are now asking the Fulanis among us, wait a minute, we know you, we've been living with you. Who is this one who share your identity but is killing us, is destroying us? That is the question that people are
I hear you, Reverend
Hayab. Segregation of indigenous.
Please
and
hold that thought for a minute.
No, those who do not
please can they hold that thought for a minute, Reverend Hayab? I will get back to it shortly, but Ajibola has been online from Abuja. Hello, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm there. Good morning.
Oh, sorry for keeping you waiting. Please go ahead. You have 1 minute.
What I have is that I have the reference talking about the security agents. Actually, the security agents cannot be everywhere. That's number 1 point. That's number one. The security agents cannot be everywhere. And we also know what's happening in Maiduguri today. The security agents, and they need to be focused when it comes to all this kind of fight, because when the security agents do not know what they're doing, it will end up in the way that the security agents are supporting a side. Are you with me?
I'm with you. Please go ahead.
The reference should be, and the security agents are trying their best when it comes to. That's what I just have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ajibola.
Yeah, I think I need to make this comment clear. We hold our security agents in high esteem. We appreciate their roles. We appreciate the sacrifices, many of them. I was born and brought up in the barracks. My father fought in the Civil War, so I know the sacrifice. I'm not going to look down on the effort of security agents. But what we are saying is that we have to do our work the way our work is supposed to be done. And if we are drawing attention to some of those lapses, it's to help correct it, not to say that security agents are not doing anything. We believe that security agents are there to help safeguard the people, but they cannot be everywhere. They need intelligent report from the people. That's another issue. What kind of relationship, what kind of communication do they have to get the information? That's a conversation for another day, but we need to raise this question and talk to ourselves so that we correct things that are not going on right. But because security agents have arrested some people in Southern Kaduna and claimed that they've arrested them with weapons, and when you prove and go further to investigate, only to realize that those young people who are tired of this attack and sleepless night, probably they learned that their community was attacked and they ran to go and give a helping hand to chase away the criminals, will be caught with even some kind of knives, even kitchen knives and cutlasses and some den guns. And before you know, the self-security agents will parade them and say they've arrested those who are. Well, the real criminals who came and killed hundreds of people or 20 people had gone and nobody arrested them. So we should be reminding ourselves some of these issues that we know is creating anger than to pretend about it.
I understand your point precisely, Reverend Haya, but I hope we can also both agree that crime is crime, whether it is reprisal or not.
There's no word called reprisal here.
No, I'm saying that if you're saying that those who were arrested were those who took up arms to defend themselves.
It's even in the United Nations Charter. If a criminal comes to injure my family as the father or as someone in the house, I stand to defend them, and now you call me reprisal. I think I beg to disagree with that. That's not reprisal. I'm only defending my home.
All right. Let's take one last call, Reverend Hayab, and then we'll wrap up this conversation. Oseni has called in from Ojota, right? I think we lost that. Well, that's how much we can
sorry.
take via calls. I'd just like us to speak to the way forward, because you mentioned earlier on that you buried some 38 people, and in another few days you are going to bury some 20-something people who are victims of this latest attack. I mean, you are tired of the killing, apparently.
That's right.
We are tired of the killing. And I understand that there are sharp differences, amongst the two divides. You also mentioned that there was a period of peace. If you have the magic wand right now, what would you say to the other stakeholders who probably do not completely agree with your position? How can we look beyond these differences for the sake of peace and prosperity of Southern Nigeria, Southern Kaduna?
If you ever have a success story and things are beginning to deteriorate, you go back to check, what did you do right that gave you success? And can you replicate that thing again to get success, even if it means you modify it? This is where we've really not done well, especially those in authority. What gave that 9 years success? They don't even want to hear it. If you talk about it, they think you are hailing a particular identity, which is wrong. A success is a success, even if it comes from your enemy. A good story is a good story, even if it comes from someone you don't know. So I want to suggest and advise those in authority that, look, what did the previous government did right and got a 9 years seizure of this violence? Can we go and repeat it honestly? Allow and engage people in honest conversations that will bring about healing. When we do that, then we'll be helping and restoring sanity. But when we say, no, whatever success that was achieved, as long as it wasn't about us, shouldn't be mentioned, shouldn't come to bear.
Okay.
But we're burying people. People are being killed. Even it's still going on. And we've not really arrested or prosecuted anybody.
We have to go now, Reverend Hyatt.
We only come to and talk, and there is nothing. So these are the kind of advice I would want to give.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Kaduna State Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, Reverend John Joseph Hyatt. We really appreciate your time, and we wish you all the best as we pray that peace will be restored in Southern Kaduna. That's our show this morning. A big thank you to everyone who's called in. I am Nifemi Ogutoye. The conversation continues with the hashtag ThisMorningTVC. We're now joining live the ceremony to mark the completion of the Blue Line, the light rail project of the Lagos State government. Stay with TVC News.
My great people of Lagos State, just look around you. Look left to right, front and back. See as better Lagos dey rise. See infrastructure revolution wey dey shele. Completed roads and big projects everywhere. For Agege, Ijede, for Ikorodu, and Limosho, Oniru. The Lagos Green Line don dey take shape. Lagos Red Line don dey arrange. High-speed metro trains in power cattle dey soon land. Even Blackberry now don dey run for waterways with Shall we rise? Some other states in the world, smoke Shall we rise for the national anthem? After the count of 2, 1, 2, go.
Chinese national anthem is next. We may be seated. Mr. Governor, Mr.